Very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to today's session where we are really going to focus on understanding what is all the hype about data science and what is the work which is happening. So we will look at business use cases, case studies, so that we are able to relate. And then, of course, the next big thing is as we start to browse around and read, there's so many different technologies being talked about, and it is potentially very confusing for anybody to figure out why and what. This we're going to do in the next 40 to 45 minutes. So what I would ask each of you to just hold your questions, right? Let's just absorb in the information, because then you will be able to articulate your questions much more accurately based on the new information which you have gained. We are going to spend sufficient time on your questions. We are not going to close the session till we have addressed each of you, right? Now, as we get started, let me do a quick check to make sure all of you can hear me. I've done that before and I know we are okay, but just another check. So there is a hands button. There's a hand button on your control panel. If you can just raise it to indicate that then you can hear me okay. Okay, I see a lot of hands going up. Thank you so much. You can put your hands down. Just a quick introduction. My name is Shweta Gupta and I'm responsible for the data science education at Digital Vidya. My profile, I am a technologist with about 19 years of experience. I've done pretty much all kind of software jobs, starting with C++ coding, moving on to J2EE, having done e-commerce consulting, for very large IBM clients and implementations. And with this kind of experience, what I can definitely, be with you folks on two areas, right? One is, as any of us aspire to build a different set of skills to take forward in a career, what it takes to do that, because I've done it several times and it can be extremely uncomfortable to start with, and one has to be really sure of that, right? Because when one may be an expert in your own area, but when you start off another one, there's a huge learning curve. There's time in which you just kind of sit down and really get it, and then you're ready to fire off as a subject matter expert, right? The second key thing is, having done work very closely with clients, I very critically understand how important it is to get the right skill in front of the right client, right? That is, to be rightly equipped to solve their business problem. And data science is all about solving business problems, because eventually, what is the goal, right? The goal is to be able to use the huge amount of data, right, and enable businesses or social companies or the governments or communities, anybody, right? But it's essentially to be able to derive meaningful insights, which then in turn help that set of work, that set of business to do better, to be more efficient, right? So this is essentially what working with data is all about. A typical life cycle, therefore, of data is, as I said, it needs to start with data, with the understanding of that domain, of that business, right? For instance, if I was to use an example of cricket right now, many of you will get it instantly. But if I was to pick up, say, a sport like golf, only a few folks who may have played, watched, or been involved in it will get it, right? So it is just, with cricket, every time, say, a big series is approaching, let's take IPL as an example, we see a lot of data analysis happening right from team's performance, past performance, to current performance, to the team mix, to who's playing against whom, and therefore what it means. A lot of predictions start to happen. Analysis of the match as it starts, right from, based on who wins the toss, what kind of decision map making, what kind of lineup, what kind of bowling is happening. Whole lot of analysis going on, and these are whole lot of statisticians and cricketers, right? Because that is where the knowledge comes together. So data is key, domain is key, then being able to analyze it and show insights which otherwise one may be using intuition, or one may be just using emotion to do it. But now it is all about based on what that data is saying. And then formulating actions out of it, which in turn provide value. So if we look at the overall data science landscape, there's very, very clearly two sets, right? One set is largely can be exploratory analysis with sufficient statistics, which does not really require programming. It's, we're not talking about the software engineers here. We're talking about people, and many of you here. In fact, let me take a quick questionnaire so that I know what is the audience we have today. So, question on your people's screens is, what is it that best describes you as of now? So just choose something which is closest to you. If you are from the IT field, choose the first option. If you're from any functional role, whether it is listed here or not listed here, if you're non-IT and you're from any functional role, whether it is HR, whether it is trading, marketing, sales, operations, supply chain, inventory, anything, choose the second option, right? If you are already a statistician, already a data analyst, choose the third one. And if you're a student, the last two are your choices, right? So if you can, I'm hoping you don't really have to think about this. You know where the best fit is. And I said, if you're anything related to IT, choose the first one, choose the second one. Let that help you decide, because that's sufficient data for me to just understand my audience enough and to know what I'm focusing on, right? So looks like some people are either multitasking. I see a few people not having given response to me. So I'm going to just do a quick 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and a close. So I have missed out a few people, but that is okay. Let's see what kind of data we have. Okay, so we have 38% of you who are from software, 19% of you who belong to functional folks. That is, you actually have your own data and you are responsible for making those decisions from that data. There are 31% people who are already into this field, and there are 13% student. It's quite a flip. There have been times where there've been like 45% students, or there've been 40% post functions. So yeah, we do see a different mix of folks out there. Okay, so thank you. So people from, one of the questions which keeps popping up is, I don't want to do programming, but I have my own data. I have marketing data from 4 channels and so many different spreadsheets, databases all over, right? And am I doing enough? Am I doing the right things and using that data to deliver, to help my business be efficient or to increase its return on investment? So these are the questions when you have this is what statistical based, analytical based data analytics is all about, right? We are not expecting that you're going to program and build machine learning models, but we are expecting that you know sufficient statistics, you know how to use your tools, and you're able to do you're able to build insights out of that data, right? And then there is the other landscape, which is really focused towards building machines which are artificially intelligent, and they can be used to address business. And this is essentially mostly other people's businesses, right? Because these are either programmers, or at some level they may be researchers, or sitting down to build artificial intelligent machines. Now, what does it mean? So just to help it break it down for all of you there, right? Because you hear these words all the time. So let me demystify artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning for you. So I'm going to do it very simply. So if you pay attention, you'll just get it right. So if you look at it, since our computers were created in the mid 1900s, the computer scientists, the researchers, right? They always thought that our computers are going to be very close to the way the humans work. Right? They're going to be intelligent. However, in reality, what happened was the whole thing has evolved to be instructional computing. Right? They can really process data extremely fast, right? But they have to be told exactly how to do it, right? The instructions have to be given, and whether it is, just started, that program has just started to execute, use data, put output, and 20 years later, it is exactly going to be doing it the same way, which doesn't happen with humans, right? I mean, today when you build a new skill and then you keep learning with experience, and over the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, there's going to be very explicit and demonstrable difference in your performance, right? However, in typical traditional computer programming, which exists all over today, right, it is instructional. Now, the difference is when these computings start to learn from data and therefore deliver, that is machine learning. Now, you have to make sure that you understand it is still based on the very foundation of statistics, right? So anybody here who thinks that you don't need to get your statistics right, that is incorrect, right? Please make sure that as you're thinking data, you are willing, right? I'm not saying that you should have done statistics and remembered it from your 11th, 12th, from your undergraduation, whatever. No, I'm not saying that, but you should be willing to completely immerse yourself into your basic statistics, right? Because this is all founded on that. And then the other word which you see a lot these days is deep learning. And this has really taken machine learning to the next level because of the underlying model it uses of neural network, which is in some way closest to how computer brains work. And of course, there's a difference in the way neural network layering is one output to another to output. But what you have to visualize is basically a layer of computer algorithms which enable machine to learn super fast and process it in a lot of data. Taking machine learning to the next degree, that what it means that it is able to solve a lot more complex problems, a lot more fast. Like for example, if you think of image, to human, it is very obvious that when we look at an image, we know how to identify a lot of things in it, whether it is shapes, objects, faces, colors, shading, surface, texture, right? There's so much we grasp. But for an algorithm to grasp all this, is a completely different game. And these are the kind of hard problems which are being solved by deep learning, and especially, you can imagine medical imaging. It can really, I mean, it is really breaking barriers there. So I'm hoping with this slide, you have a much better understanding about this landscape. So moving on, just let's look at some simple examples, and then we will look at where we are heading. So every time we start to Google for something, right, as we start typing, you will see that Google search engines auto completes for you. Basically what it is doing, it is predicting based on what characters you're typing, it is predicting to you on what is possibly you going to search for. The other most commonplace things where you see machine learning being applied is your e-commerce engines, whether it is Amazon, Flipkart, anything, to media like Netflix. Everywhere you see a lot of recommendations popping up. So what is sitting behind our machine learning algorithms who are trying to getting more and more accurate? And it can be hard after a certain percentage. In fact, Netflix was one of the pioneers about a decade back. It had launched an algorithm to help improve it had launched a competition to help increase the accuracy of their algorithm, which surfaces out recommendations to the users. Taking to a very different level of example, we have been seeing advent of Internet of Data for the last many years, and what basically it means Internet of Data is IoT. What it means is that a lot of machines, a lot of devices, not just computer machines, a lot of devices are now connected with internet, and they are able to transmit a lot of data. That means a lot of actions are being taken on the data which is coming out of these devices. And while a lot of work is happening now, especially say in the manufacturing industry, in car industries, and you would have seen a whole lot of high-end cars, they have enough information being controlled via their suppliers, via their manufacturers. Now, one of the oldest industries in this would probably be the aircraft industry, to an extent where the claim is that an average flight of a Boeing plane involves only 7 minutes of human steered flight. And when does it happen? Takeoff and landing. So basically what is happening rest of the time? The flying is automated based on all the data it has and the data it is receiving based on where it is flying. So that's a pretty powerful example. Now coming to an example where I was talking to you about that, when you look at an image, when Facebook started to do photo tagging, and then when Google does photo tagging, it's moved really far ahead now. Right? And this is largely due to, as I said, the work which has happened in deep learning. Now, again, shifting you and giving you a very different glance of an example, using sport, FIFA. Right? So if you look at soccer, it is a multiplayer game, and there's very high level complexity in which players interact with each other and what happens. And just, being on the topic of FIFA, we know when the Series World Cup happened this year, everybody's analytics-based predictions or emotion-based predictions really went haywire, right? Nobody thought the finalists until a lot of matches had played off. And the reason these kind of things would happen, because solely for a machine learning, which is even based on ensemble. Ensemble means which basically you bring together multiple techniques to make prediction. So even when you do that, the predictions went really, really way off. And that is because in a multiplayer game, there are a lot of other sciences involved over data science. Now, this example where I'm talking about FIFA is slightly different. It's not about predicting that, but it's about enabling very, very deep analysis of a game. So that the coaches and trainers, otherwise you can imagine, you've seen uh, that they sit down, they watch replays, and they would strategize, they would do stuff. But while you're watching in that fast game, you're still not able to capture as much information very clearly. So one of these software matrix, what it does, it is able to generate heat maps, information of passes, which got completed, which got missed, what kind of the distance, and whole lot of information. With this information, now the coaches are able to leverage that existing data much, much more profoundly. Much, much more profoundly. Now let's look at another example. Natural language. Speech has another been a very, very drastic example of where the technology did not deliver as expected. I don't know how many of you may have watched movies like Robot and stuff, from the early 2018, even 80s and 90s, the sci-fi movies. They forever had robots talking and emoting and being emotional and doing all that so natural. And even till date, we have not reached that level of natural language processing powers. And we are going to get to it in a little while. So examples like Instagram, where in 2017, there was a bullying survey, right? There is a bullying survey, yes. It said that Instagram was the platform that was most used for bullying because that was where the younger folks all congregated. And Instagram, as a response to it, it became the first, before the senior social media players, it became the first to use machine learning to be able to identify, detect, and therefore remove those offensive posts. And while there, it's still error prone because it's context, it could remove the right things, and how feisty people become on social media if that happens. So there's a lot of work which will continue to happen because of the complexity of natural language. However, it did receive praise from the Cyberbully Prevention Organization. And the last example, I think I've more or less covered it. Natural language processing. This is so relevant in every aspect because eventually, whatever domain we are in, there are humans involved. There's natural language speech involved. So while we looked at a lot of examples, there's one more which I would like to cover where we look at where really the future is heading. It's from an analytics perspective. I covered one example from IPL, another one. Imagine you're part of the credit card business, right? And for sure, every quarter, every year, there got to be certain goals on how to, say, improve your customer recovery or identify which customers to reach out to, how to convert more customers. These kind of problems are consistently on. And as analysts, being able to bring this data on Excel sheet or sheets, and being able to determine various questions around, say, who are your high risk customers, who are your medium risk customers, but they default on payments, but they give you interest, but they eventually pay, right? So a lot of these questions can be answered based on the given data, and you as a business analyst or as a sales function in the credit card company really enable better decision making there. Now, with all those examples, one of the example which I wanted to pick up was the announcement which Sundar Pichai made earlier this year in May, and it was called Google Duplex. So let me do another question. People who already have hands raised, can you just put them down so that I know you're answering to my current question? Jay, Krishna, Videshi, if you can just put your hands down. Thank you. So my next question is, how many of you have watched the demo where the virtual assistant, where the Google virtual assistant made an appointment call? How many of you have seen it? If you can raise your hands. Okay, I see a few hands going up. That is good. That is good. Wonderful. So there's bulk of you who have not seen it. So let's watch it. I think it's definitely worth relooking at it, because what it shows is the possibilities, the kind of work, and how relevant it is for data aspirants to want to work in this field, because there's just so much. I mean, things which look preliminary are being demoed at the biggest level. And this demonstrates that how much work is left in areas like natural language and imaging and some other areas. Right? So I'm playing the video.
As I said earlier, our vision for our assistant is to help you get things done. It turns out a big part of getting things done is making a phone call. You may want to get an oil change schedule, maybe call a plumber in the middle of the week, or even schedule a haircut appointment. You know, we're working hard to help users through those moments. We want to connect users to businesses in a good way. Businesses actually rely a lot on this, but even in the US, 60% of small businesses don't have an online booking system set up. We think AI can help with this problem. So let's go back to this example. Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a woman's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now? Okay, we have a 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Right. So we clearly see the audience giving a big applause here. What I would like to understand, how many of you, if you can raise your hand to indicate, how many of you could not make out the difference between the artificial intelligent agent and the human on this call? How many of you could not make out that difference? How many of you thought both of them were as natural as human? Can I see hand raises? How many of you thought both of them were as natural? Right, so a lot of us, right? You know, you saw just the applause it received when the agent made the noise. So these are the kind of caveats, these are the kind of challenges which has stood today even in 2018. These are the problems which the biggest research companies like Google are trying to solve, and for specific problems. Sundar Pichai in this demo very clearly called out that they're not looking to make this application yet global, because they're still looking to make sure that this can solve one purpose, and that is to make to make calls to the businesses and find out, say, their opening time and closing time on a holiday. Because you can imagine on a given holiday in the US, number of calls which go out to businesses just to find out what is their timing is so high, and how much time is spent on it. So Google is able to do that and just show it to you correctly as you search. So to solve this one big business problem, we are still not anywhere close to cracking NLP, right? So, for aspirants who are looking to get into this challenging space, you can clearly see the landscape. So now let us move into technology, because I'm sure many of you who have started to read upon technology may be really confused. So maybe another quick hands raise. How many of you have started to read around what technology to be used in data science and what technology you should learn on? How many of you have started to do that research? Okay, I see a few of you. And how many of you find it confusing? My follow-up question, the question has changed. How many of you find it rather confusing on which technology to use? Okay, I'd say pretty much this number of people who started to browse. Okay, so I'm going to spend good 7 to 8 minutes on the slide. So I want you all to pay attention, good attention, because in a very story narrative style, I'm going to really help you understand the different landscape. I'm not claiming that all sort of technologies are in this chart, because then it will just make it a few hour session only on this chart. But I am covering some key ones and help you understand where is the focus. So if we start even before what is on the slide, in the early 1900s, it was the statisticians, right? I'm reinforcing. It was the statisticians who had started to solve pretty interesting problems around. There's a very popular researcher, statistician called Gosse in North America, who is working with a wine company to identify which barley would yield the best wine, quality, taste, blah, blah, blah. And he ended up publishing a lot of interesting white papers and patents, which became base of work which happened in agriculture for quite a bit of while. Now, by the time the computers got started, and it was mid-1900s, the statisticians, they realized the potential of being able to make those heavy calculations using computer. And they got together to write software, to write a program. And then they incorporated it into a company and they called it SAS. So now for all the software engineers out there, don't get confused. You're not talking about software as a service. You're not talking about SaaS, SAS here. We're talking about statistical analysis software. Now, if you look at SAS as a software, it's one of the largest vendors. It has stood the time completely. It is equivalent to, say, SAP in the ERP space or a DB2 and Oracle in the database space. Right? So it is big vendor, big implementations, of course, expensive licenses. But what it means is that it provides for maintenance, support, data security, blah, blah, blah. So even today, the biggest of banks, insurance companies, healthcare, are still using SAS, and especially for a lot of traditional work. For a lot of new kind of work, they may be moving on to other technologies, but that is where SAS still firmly stands. Now moving to the second icon up there, and this is to the folks out there who have data with you. Who have data with you, you are functional in your roles. You're not programmers. You're not looking to program and solve other people's problem. You have your data and you want to work with it. And your question is always, what can I do? And this is where Microsoft Excel, which probably when it was launched, it was thought, okay, it will, help with certain amount of analysis because it's going to help store data. But it's just amazing because Microsoft Excel, whether you're running a small startup from your home garage, whether you're a small business, a medium business, a large business, or very large business, the chances are that eventually whichever databases, whichever systems, SAP, Salesforce, Oracle, a lot of places where data may be, eventually the functional heads, they like to get their data on Excel, do the analysis and put up beautiful charts, visualize them and do the storytelling and really, really enable their businesses and convince them that this is the data, this is what it says, and this is what you should do. Unfortunately, with Microsoft Excel, because just knowing 5% of it, a lot of people think that, this is the use of Microsoft Excel. It's really, really underrated. But trust me, it is extremely powerful, and I will show you a survey, a very recent survey. 2017, this report was published by a company called O'Reilly. So O'Reilly is a technology company for people who are not from technology. You can just Google it right now, O'Reilly Data Science Survey. You will find it. It is freely available to read. The survey was conducted and it asked several questions to the participating data analysts and data scientists. What kind of work you're doing, what kind of domain, blah, 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 a lot of questions. And one of the questions was, which is your go-to tool for your key business intelligence work, right? For your reporting, what is the tool you use? And you can clearly see, just look at the size of the bubbles. The last bubble is 10%, right? 69%, that is the kind of a strength with a tool like Microsoft Excel provides analysts. 69% shows that they use Excel to handle their business intelligence. So moving on and coming back to this chart. Now, while we saw that SAS was being used by statistics, especially in the large companies, by the late 1900s, what happened was the statisticians in these research firms and in small to mid-sized companies, they did not have access to expensive license tool like SAS, and they needed something to do their work. There was a lot of research happening. This is the time where machine learning was really, really, a lot of algorithms were being developed, and that is where the statisticians, remember, statisticians, this is not a software programming language, right? Let it be very, very clear. Statisticians got together and they created a tool and called it R. R is a statistical programming language. It open sourced it. What it meant that in the last 15 years, it has really, really stood ground, and pretty much any senior data scientist you would find would have worked in R. Any machine learning algorithm was implemented fast enough. Now, when I'm using was, something happened, something shifted in the last few years, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. And what made the shift was, with a lot of research companies focusing on artificial intelligence, with deep learning coming into focus, a lot of new libraries. Now, what is Python? Let me just pause and recap for you all, right? Python is a typical software programming language. When I say typical, not really typical, because it is really, really clean and simple. It's very strong for sure, right? And it allows for varied kind of tasks, right? From web development to tooling, scripting, right? It can really, really enable you to do a lot of work. It is open source, so that meant, enthusiasts could come together and build these libraries. So they built NumPy, which is for statistics, scikit-learn, which is machine learning. They built Matplotlib, which is used for visualization. So they built a whole lot of libraries, and as it started to be adopted, the biggest shift happened when the deep learning libraries got created, and pretty much all the Google's kind of world started to really, really leverage it. right? Whether it is TensorFlow and stuff, it's all development which happened in Python first. So suddenly what happened was it replaced, in today's world it replaced, and this chart is very, very clear. Now, my next question, this chart is from a Kaggle survey, which is again from last year. Okay, all recent data. How many of you know of Kaggle and how many of you have explored Kaggle? Can I see a raise of hands? Okay, so that is very few of you. Okay, so all aspiring data scientists, especially from programming field, you must look up at Kaggle. So what is Kaggle? It is the open source world for all data scientists who have come together and they collaborate to solve problems. It's amazing because everybody's code is visible up there. You can go read it up and learn from it. It is an amazing platform. Companies have come out and they've hosted competitions, and as soon as you're learning and you just know right amount of level, you can start participating in, right? So this is the kind of collaborative platform which has probably not existed for any other area as I've seen this for data science. It's pretty amazing. And huge, like worldwide, huge number of data scientists. And one of the questions which was asked in the survey was, what language would you recommend new data scientists learn first? Can you see the question is very, very clearly phrased? And the answer of this question is on this bar chart, and you can see that Python has so surpassed R, which is at the next. So anybody who had a question on why Python and not R, please understand R is of course a very, very strong, solid, pure data scientist language. However, today most of the new work is happening in Python. Of course, a lot of code which is written in R, it is going to be continued to be maintained. It will continue. But most of the new work is happening in Python. And then you see some icons on top, they're just part of the big data game, it's right from Hadoop, Hive, Pig, Apache Spark, real-time work. So there's a lot of technology in big data. So a lot of you have questioned, oh, should I do data science or big data? What you have to understand is big data is really data, and therefore it needs same data science concepts. Now the difference is technology. Technology-wise, because the data sizes are so huge, it requires an amazing amount of storage, amount of processing. So the technologies which are built are meant to work on this kind of data. That is the technology side of it. However, the science of it stays the same. If you were to pick up, say, Apache Spark and start to use Spark machine learning library without having a foundation on it, you'll be really only bluffing. And that's why I said, as a data scientist, you have to make sure you know your data, you know your statistics, you know your foundation. If you're a data analyst, you know that part of the story. If you're aspiring machine learning scientist, you know all your machine learning basics, fundamentals, concepts very, very clear, right? So I have really spent a good 12 to 15 minutes on this chart with the hope that you are quite clear in your heads now. So maybe let me just see a hand raised to see, did it help? Did this slide help you folks? Thank you so much. Okay. So I think from here on, I'm going to use the next 5 minutes to wind this. I do want you to understand how we at Digital Vidya have curated our offering based on a whole lot of understanding, based on a lot of work, something suited for what are the skills which are needed, right? The skills which are needed are very, very clearly, I think I'm just reiterating, it's statistics. Now, people who, a lot of you will have questioned what in statistics. It's the foundation statistics. You should know how to describe your data. That is called descriptive statistics. What is probability? A very, very important aspect because you're calculating probability for a lot of events. How is data distributed? What is the sample distribution? How to build a hypothesis? How to prove and disprove a hypothesis? What is the population variance? Then move on to certain topics like what is linear regression? What is time series, right? Fundamentals of statistics. You must know one tool really, really well and very clearly, one tool. Whether you are looking at data crunching tool, whether you're looking at programming tool, do one and do it very well. And then of course, visualization tool, because visualization storytelling is something which everybody loves to do and everybody loves to kind of consume it, right? SQL is one of the foundations because a lot of data sits in databases and it's just one must know how to deal with that, right? And as one starts to work on data, you start to learn about those domains. That comes with experience, right? So the way we have structured is very clearly, right? 2 roadmaps for you so that you don't get confused. So the one which says functional role on top, right? Functional role on top. This is for people who are not programmers, but you actually own your data. Your sales, marketing, finance, HR, operation, logistics, customer care, supply chain, inventory, list goes on, right? I can't really comprehensively cover, but you know, you own the data. Your objective is to make database decisions, or you're a business analyst. And then the course for you is analytic techniques using Excel and Power BI, where you start from basic, but you get to really, really good advanced analysts using Microsoft Excel. You learn 2 visualization tools, Power BI and Tableau, and you learn SQL Foundation. You learn statistics. If you're a programmer and your objective is to build a career in data science, machine learning, you are looking at data science using Python. One more question, which a lot of people who are non-programmers are very, very enthusiastic about getting into data science and machine learning, ask, what do we do? Or we haven't programmed for a while, what do we do? So very clearly, your first step is drop the non-programmer tag, right? And you have a very simple way to do it. You cannot do it theoretically. You have to do it. So what we have at Digital Vidya, we have a very simple Python programming. It's a self-paced course. It is free for everybody. Just today, you should sign it up. You should start it. It's self-paced, Jupyter Notebook-based tutorial. Jupyter Notebook, it's an editor where you type, you see the code, you see the output. So you have to learn by coding it. And once you have spent adequate amount of time, you're confident, and you have dropped that you're a non-programmer, then you are ready to start doing data science, which requires programming. Right? So these are the 2 courses. I'm not going to spend time on going through the curriculum because it's very well detailed. You just need to go visit Digital Vidya website, download the curriculum, and look at it. The price is listed, the duration listed, everything is written there, right? I think what is important here is, as you are aspiring to learn to work with data, right, in whichever role, you have to understand that learning to work with data is same as learning a sport or learning an instrument. Like, you would not sit down and watch 40 hours of piano and at the end will you come and claim, oh, I'm a pianist. You will not. In the same way, do not expect that you are just going to come in and attend sessions. That is just part of it. You are expected to come at least 10 hours per week, so that 3 hours you come in, you attend an instructor-led class, you have a chance to really, really interact, learn a lot of concepts. But what is important is that you refresh, you get your recording, you refresh, you attempt the quiz, and then you really, really attempt the assignment, because that is where you're going to be solving problems. You have a very, very vibrant question answer forum. Anytime you post your question there, you read answers, you start posting answers, because collaborative learning is the way to learn. Right? You get to do very interesting capstone projects, where you have your instructor becomes your coach and you really, really do it. We have internal competitions continuously happening, so that even after you've finished, you get an opportunity to come participate, win prizes, get a clothes, and really, really gain that experience. So upcoming course dates, these are the dates wherever we have the 25% discounts. It is listed on the website, so make sure you're able to leverage that. And I think now is the time where I should move to question answers. So everybody, now is the time. I want you to articulate your questions as completely as you can, because that will help me to respond to you much better. So start posting a question, and while you do that, I do have another question for you on the screen. Simplest one, right? Based on what you've learned so far, are you interested in one of these specialization trainings? So you have got the two options up there, and you have got the third one, looking for further guidance. Of course, I'm going to answer your questions. So in case you want to hold on for the next few minutes and get your question answered and then answer this poll, that's completely okay, right? So I'm starting to look at the questions. I'm waiting for them. I think people are still typing, which is a good thing. It means you are spending your time typing in. Okay, I see one question which is actually from before the session, so I'm not sure if it is relevant, but I'll read it. I'm sales executive and experienced 4 years. मेरे career का क्या फायदा होगा? I really hope you've got an answer to the question. If you're looking to leverage your data to be better at your sales, you need it. Okay. Next question comes in from Sangbaran. I have experience in using SAS EG and some base SAS knowledge. What is the proposed prospect of going forward with that, or should I move and start to learn Python basics and then go for advanced analytics with Python? So Sangbaran, I think my answer to you is based on your current SAS learning which you've done. Since you've done only base SAS, it's probably not as much. It's probably right now more exploratory analysis. You should definitely start to look out if there are job opportunities open for it. Right? There's no reason not to do that. Right? First of all. Second of all, you would SAS is something which is at a maintenance mode, right? If you're looking to really get into the new age of data science, you would want to then pick up a programming language. And I would say you don't need to wait for that either, right? Just today, start learning Python. And once you get comfortable to it, you should look at data science, right? Using Python. But in the meanwhile, continue to, because the more experience you get working with data, the more insightful it is, the more fun the learning will become for you, Sangbaran. Okay. Moving on to the next question by Amarjeet. What about placement assistant after the completion of this course? Amarjeet, we do have a placement assistant, placement support. The focus is for people who are freshers because the industry really looks out for a lot of freshers. For the people who are experienced, you will get the support. However, for people with experience, remember, it is always easier to look for a career change within your current organization. So that is what I advise and mentor you to look at. So Amarjeet, you'll have to tell me what you're doing now. Sonali's next question, does Digital Vidya provide job after completing of the course? Sonali, Digital Vidya, we do not provide job, we provide placement assistance. So what it means is we have a placement team who will work with the candidates who have completed successfully in matching with the current openings opportunities, getting them to a position where they're ready for interviews, and it takes off from there. Mandar's question, could you please provide details how you can help in getting a new job, technology for an experienced resource? Good, Mandar, you asked this. I kind of said it, but let me explain a little bit more in detail. Well, our placement support service will help you to match the existing requirements and your resume. But let me tell you, the best way for anybody to make a career shift is by doing it in your own organization, because you have proven your worth there, you have established yourself there, and if there are opportunities, and then you're able to position yourself because you have skill, that is the best way. Because when you're shifting companies, people look for the experience you're bringing to them. So moving on to next question from Naveen. I'm into BI platform. Is it at the advantage of data science career? So Naveen, you'll have to elaborate a little bit what BI you're doing and what kind of work do you want to do, because considering the fact that you're really good with data and storytelling, continuing to work with data will certainly that be an added advantage for you. However, because BI is mostly about storytelling using tools without really knowing how it works underlying. So if you are seriously looking to start coding and doing a lot of algorithms, you may have to build your profile on that a lot more. Ashok's question, I'm working as a sales and service coordinator currently, and basically I'm from commerce background. I'm interested in supply chain analytics. On that, I need guidance on how I can get into analytics as a fresher, and being a commerce graduate, I could be successful in the field of analytics. So Ashok, so you're doing sales, you already know your sales, you have your data. One of the best ways is to make sure that you learn how to work with data on your current sales data. Right? And then you should look at moving to supply chain, because you have experience of being a data analyst in a domain. Because if you try to change a domain and a new skill at the same time, the recruiting companies may not really find that level of experience which they want. However, if you've already demonstrated sufficient analysis in your current background, and then you say, okay, I know this, right? I know how to bring value out of data, and I can do it in the supply chain. That's the way to do it, right? That's one of the best ways. Now, how to do it? As I said, we've clearly created a curated course for you, right? And if you learn those skills, it will enhance your current role greatly, because you will be able to make database decisions. So that's the most honest answer I know of. Okay, Rakhi's next question: does SC analysis works better for full-time or freelance opportunities? Data science analysis. Well, I'm not sure what do you mean by works better, but what I can tell you that, like in all jobs, when companies are looking to put up their teams, they hire full-time employees and then they hire certain freelancers. Full-time employees is somebody who is there for them and will jump from problem to problem. Whereas when they need a sudden splurge of resource to solve a particular problem, they will bring in freelancers, get it solved, and the freelancer will move to the next project. The company would let go of that freelancer. So the equation works in both. So there's I'm not sure that is better in the job. It's more about stability as an individual, whether somebody likes to work more of a freelancer or more of a full-time employee. Moving to next question from Sonali. Completed my MTech in 2016, 2 years of experience in programming. Currently an unemployed. Does I get job assurity? No, you do not get job assurity. What you get is assurance that you will build the right level of skills so that you are much more relevant to get good jobs. You will get a placement support, but you will not get job security. Ashok's question, being a commerce graduate, how far I could be successful in the field of analytics? So Ashok, a lot of people in businesses who are influencers are typically MBAs who could have come from engineering or commerce, right? People who are influencers have to make database decisions and have to get their team to help them make database decisions. So in all aspects, it's a big play of data. The important thing is, as a commerce graduate, how willing you are to focus on statistics, on learning the tools, and how strong is your analytical capabilities. If the answer to these questions is a positive, is a yes, 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 you're willing to do all this, then you have a successful career ahead. Then you have a possibility of a successful career ahead. Okay, I think Naveen, you're giving me an answer to what you have, Power BI, Tableau. So Naveen, certainly, you know, a lot of times when you're working as part of the team, people get to essay different roles. So considering right now you're very focused on visualization, the best thing would be if you can expand, and get a role. If you build the right skills and be part of those teams where people are doing the crunching of data using programming, that's a great way to expand your own career. That's a great way to go. Vicky has a next question. I'm a mechanical engineer passed out this year. I want to switch into data science. Is this good for my career? If yes, then what are the steps should I follow? Vicky, when you say you passed out this year, it's not about switch into data science. It's really, really about building your career. Companies and institutions, they love freshers because they get you at a young age. They get relevant skills, right? Because data science is new anyway. They don't get too many people who are experienced with that kind of skills. So a lot of time they prefer to put their money on the freshers. So if you build your skills rightly and you're able to position yourself into the companies, absolutely. I mean that's you're in the brightest bracket, right? You're a fresher learning data science. That's the brightest bracket which companies want. Sangbaran's add-on question is, data science with Python is more into for people with technical and love for coding and analytics skills. With BI and analysis of data is more a business analytics path. I'm more interested to be in the technical side, but is the process more better if the step is taken to business analytics road? Is the prospect more better if the step is taken to business analytics road? Not at all, not at all. The field of data science, machine learning is really, really hot. I mean, you saw the kind of problems, space which is being solved there. So there's this huge opportunity area there, Sunburn. So if that is your interest area, there's no reason for you to pause. And business analytics is something which, if you start to know your domain, know the business for which you're working on, and you know all the other work of data, you can do it really, really well. So it's not something which will get left behind for you in any case. Neeraj asked, do you have any course which covers only statistics and application in Excel, as the given course starts from some basic function which I'm not interested? Neeraj, we do not have a course which has only application in Excel. We do not. And there is a reason, because when people get into advanced Excel, we have seen that people who do not build the firm foundation, they struggle. So it's been hard for us to skip that part. So that's how it stands. Yeah, you may be looking for, I understand you're only looking for advanced application in Excel. We don't have that. Lakshmi's question, I have 10 years of experience as a Java developer. Will it be helpful for me to change my career as data scientist? Lakshmi, definitely. I mean, data scientists are high in demand. And my recommendation to you is, depending on what is the size of the company and if your company is really picking up data science projects, because if yes, you should really try to build an inroad there, build the right skills in parallel, and just jump into it. Because companies are looking for skills, they're not getting them. So if they see their existing employees lapping it up, they love that, right? Asim asks, what should be the next specialization after data science with Excel? I would say you should start doing your projects, and based on the tool which is used there, you will be able to learn yourself. You may not really have to do a separate specialization, because once you know the concepts, how to do it, say, Excel with Power BI, Excel with Tableau, and now even if there is some fifth tool, because there are like 25 visualization tools, and there's some other tool which your client is using, because you know your conceptually how to work with different charting, different data inputs, different ways, you'll be able to pick that tool up. So you may not really need it until you're really, really focused on moving to programming side. This will be just sufficient, the same. Raki's next question, I'm software engineer, coding is my strength, but restarting my career after a decade, can only freelance do your thing, data SE for a person like me? Raki, it would be the same thing. I mean, whether as a freelancer, you will be looking for projects which come your way. Now, since you are a software engineer, whether they are software engineer projects or you will expand your skill to data science projects, as a freelancer, when people will hire you, they will prefer that you bring in some experience. So it may be a little harder to just start off without that experience. It will be easier to start off as software engineer as a freelancer. So, however, if you were to get certain number of years of experience and then go as a freelancer, even in data scientist, then you will get many more projects. I think that's, and it's not just about data science, any field, that's how typically it would work. And we can talk more. So anybody who is not, think I've not answered you in full and you want to talk to me, please email shweta.gupta@digitalvidya.com. shweta.gupta@digitalvidya.com. I have typed the email ID on the chat window. Next question from Shubham. I'm currently working in Excel and providing relevant insights to leadership team for future business. Which course should I opt? Many times I've started learning Python from different online instructors and I couldn't, because I don't find During, I didn't find the answer of how is this working, how is this going to develop me within myself. So Shubham, only if you're really, really interested in programming, you want to do programming. Because, okay, so let me rephrase this. So you certainly are doing good amount of work. My first question to you is, have you looked at our curriculum and of analytic techniques using Excel and Power BI? And do you think you are sufficiently equipped and you know that pretty well? So you definitely then don't need to deepen that. But I would want you to do that self-check for yourself first time. Now your next question is that you have tried different instructors learning Python, but you've not made it. I would like to understand where you were blocked, because there's no point on you restarting it all over. Because your question is, where is it going to head you? Is if you want to do serious machine learning, then you will need to learn programming, right? So that would be my question to you. So maybe having a conversation with us at the Digital Vidya team will really help us. Okay, it looks okay. I do have one more question. How can we start our career after pursuing analytical techniques using Excel and Power BI at Digital Vidya? How can we start our career? So Ashok, what I would ask you to do is visit portals like Naukri, like Monster, do a little bit about search around the kind of roles people are looking for with Power BI skills, Excel skills, business analyst skills. That will give you an idea of how can you start your career using those skills. That's the best way, right? You should understand the market, because once you do, you will be able to get it. Yep. Okay, I am just giving it a last minute to see any other question coming in. Okay, Shubham, you say you have looked into it. I'm good with Excel, but not with Power BI. Well, coming to second question, I'm planning for MBA. Okay. Continue your question, Shubham. So, Shubham, I am waiting for your question. Okay, moving to, there's a question coming from Jay. I have experience in teaching. Shall I choose data science as a career? Oh, Jay, that's really a very, very short question for me to answer. I mean, experience in teaching could be in just so many things. So, can you elaborate your question, or can you email to me at shweta.gupta@digitalvidya.com? I really think I need an elaborated question. There's no way I can answer that. Subhash has the next question. I'm still studying in my undergraduate course. Can I apply for this course? Oh, absolutely. Most people start learning these days in their second year, third year. You get sufficient time to prepare a good profile and really, really be ready when you're looking for jobs, Subhash. Shubham says, which course should I opt for in the interim? So Shubham, that's why I said, if you think analytic techniques using Excel and Power BI will give you sufficient learning, you should definitely go for it, right? But if you think you already know most of it, then there's no reason to do it. Considering you're going to pursue an MBA, and if you're not planning to really get into programmer, I wouldn't ask you to do a programming based course, Shubham. So, yep. Mandar says, thanks, you're welcome. Sangbaran Digital with their course are all online or classroom programs as well. Sangbaran, we are only doing online trainings because it really helps us to focus on a lot of things, including getting very high quality education out there. Okay, Jay has given me detail. Assistant professor in engineering college. You want to switch an industry. Jay, what areas and subjects are you in? If you're already into, say, statistics and stuff, it's definitely going to be much, much more aligned. Other than that, I don't know how many number of years of experience, what kind of expectation you have to switch into industry. Jay, this needs a conversation for sure. Subhash, do I need much of the programming? Either you need programming, are you willing to become a programmer and do the hard machine learning problems, or you're not going to get into it and you're going to focus on everything else. So Subhash, that's why I put out these two things, right? Let me just show the screen again. So for the right hand side, you definitely need a lot of programming. For the left side, no, you do not need programming. You're welcome, Shubham. Vidyashi asks, I'm anticipating MSc in statistics. I have done base SAS 1 month course and did project in R. What course do you suggest? So Vidyashi, if you've done project in R, I would ask you to go to Kaggle and start really solving your problems. I don't know what level of skills you've built, both like base SAS in itself is not enough, but R, I don't know what level of project you've done. So if you can go to Kaggle, or you can give me your link to Kaggle, and you can build a strong profile, You may not need to do any course, but if you think you are not there, not able to work through Kaggle problems yet, not able to even understand the code well enough, then you definitely should do data science using Python, right? Because MSc in statistics, along with data science using Python, you'll have a very, very strong positioning as you enter your jobs, for sure. Okay, this does look like the last question. So thank you all so much for being here. I wish you all the very, very best. Bye-bye.